Today, we will talk about 5 unforgettable expensive mistakes in all history. Let's get started. The port of Beirut is one of the largest, busiest ports in the eastern Mediterranean. It sat on the eastern bank of St. George Bay in Lebanon. It was responsible for 60% Zoom ports, that all changed on August of 2020. Fully understand what we must go back to September. Of the cargo ship carrying 2,007 tons of ammonium nitrate chemical compound fertilizer was detained in Beirut when it couldn't pay the Suez Canal to take. The ship was moved into a warehouse on the dock, where it sat collecting 2020 batch of firewood to the highly explosive chemicals. So when a fire broke out in the warehouse, it effectively is a ticking time bomb. A crew of firefighters arrived to fight the blaze, reported healing a quick. Two explosions sent a large cloud of smoke into the sky and damaged the entire warehouse. While the first blast was like 2 tons of TNT, it was only 30 seconds later literally shook up. As far as Turkey, it was like a small nuke, going off in between 1,000 and 1,500 tons of TNT. Blast claimed 218 lines and caused about $15 million in property damage, and certainly didn't help with Lebanon. Was reeling from other problems with numbers. Decide the country was dealing with a 50% unemployment and defaulting government. The Suez Canal literally makes the world go round, playing a major role in the trade routes between the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. Between 7 and 10% of the world's oil moves through the Suez yearly. In fact, about 1 million barrels of oil going through the canal every day. So, when we ever given a 1,300-foot container ship not stuck for 6 days, it brought international trade to a standstill. Experts estimated that every hour the ship remained stuck in the canal, it would delay $400 million worth of goods. Furthermore, every day it remained stuck would disrupt another $9 billion worth of goods. So, what happened on March 23rd? Forgiving got caught in a sandstorm? As it traveled through the Suez Canal, 46 winds took control. The ship turned it sideways, causing it to liquid ground and block the canal. The Ever Given was part of a toilet from Malaysia to the Netherlands. It was the 5th, forcing others to get stuck behind it. It took 6 days to get the ship unstuck, but the domino effect that had on the supply chain lasted. However, it didn't cause us to rethink how mines work. Specific mines on just-in-time manufacturing. Michael Sappi, a writer for The Guardian, and called it a worst-case scenario that many saw coming. So aside from the cost of the blocked cargo, a settlement with the Egyptian Suez Canal Authority cost the insurance of the $500 million with restrictions. It's no secret that oil still makes the world go round. A lot of money for the companies that its extraction. History is filled with tons of drilling gone wrong, but I've been quite as bad. Water arrived back in 2010 miles off the coast of Louisiana. The oil drilling rig Deepwater Horizon was exploring a new prospect. Basically, methane gas rushed from the underground well up through the pipes, causing an explosion and fire. Massive rescue effort quickly ensued to aid those on board. 94 crew members were. Sadly, 11 were never found and are believed to have died in the explosion after burning for more than a day. The Deepwater Horizon sank on April 22nd. Sadly, the problems only got worse from here. Roughly 8,000 barrels of oil spill into the sea per day. At 7 days, total over 210 million spilled out in July. The weld was finally over a year later in November of 2001. EVP in the U.S. Department of Justice and settled federal criminal charges. BP pleading guilty to 11 counts of manslaughter. The company was also temporarily banned from entering into new contracts with the United States government, among other punishments, for years after this. And then somebody was still showing up on shores all over. 2018 costs, charges and penalties, and costs more than $65 billion to this day. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill is the largest environmental world history. Read several tests on atomic weapons. While many of these occurred in various sites in Nevada, there were many others, even little remote part of the Marshall Islands. Castle probably the name given to the first in a series of high-yield thermonuclear tests under the umbrella of Operation Castle. On March 1st of 1954, the device was detonated. The bomb was estimated to produce a yield of 6 megatons, but the true outcomes are scaling. During the blast, there was an unexpected reaction from the use of lithium-7. This has caused the total yield to be more than what was expected coming in, and this resulted in an extremely large contaminating the most significant, which was 3 days the millions of residents of these islands. But it was too late. Hundreds suffered from radiation sickness. One notable example with 23 members. They were contaminated from the heavy fallout and suburban radiation syndrome. Once news broke, it led to an international atmospheric thermonuclear testing. But since the blast took place in the Maldives, soon spread over the globe. Traces of radioactive, and they'll be found in places like India and Australia, as well as these. 203 and having any suffering from symptoms like vomiting, alopecia and skin. Additionally, 23 crew members of a Japanese fishing vessel were also contaminated by them. According to one source, the United States government has paid a whopping $680 million to the effective atolls, and is $1 billion when adjusted for inflation. Nuclear power is China's greatest achievements. This clean and sustainable energy has the ability to power a small city with a single plant, and is widely accepted as a great alternative for burning fossil fuels. Something this good without its detractors, and this was made alto clear in the spring of 1986. In the late evening of Saturday, April 26th of that year, engineers Chernobyl nuclear power plant were running a shaky test on what happened in a power failure due to a power structures, and ultimately a design mistake not to play. I've got about 1 minute to the test. The power dropped into a near zero, and operators were only able to restore power. Basically, the nuclear reaction was no longer controlled, and could accelerate at an ever-increasing rate. It didn't take long for engineers to notice things spiraling way beyond safe level. Emergency shutdown ended up being when the copper triggered powerful explosion. The reactor was now fully exposed to the outside world. The sudden energy released a cooling water and resulted in the steam explosion. The reactor core exposed, and a large fire burning leaked into the air. The fire continued to release radiation until it was finally extinguished on May 4th. Radiation contaminated surrounding areas have been drifted the Dogon countries. Interestingly enough, the Soviet Union. The disaster from the outside radioactive material in Sweden. The true scale of the disaster was made after years of investigation. Sometimes hindered by the communists, it was found that there was a significant design of the control rods that were inserted into the reactor to slow the reaction. The bottom of each rod was made out of graphite instead of the neutron-absorbing boron carbide. Additionally, the rods were more 0.3 feet shorter than they were supposed to. Because of the graphite tips, neutron-absorbing water was displaced, which actually is unknown to the operator. Control rods and did more damage than good ones all of a sudden. The total economic cost of the Chernobyl disaster, estimated to be around $235, making a costly mistake in the area surrounding the containment dome, was later installed to capture the lifespan of 100 years, and that need to be replaced. Scientists claim that the area will not be safe to live in for at least 20,000 more years. So, you need to be just like this one. Click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.